Before we dive into the darkness, don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop a comment if you think you could last even one night inside America's most feared prison. Because after this story, you might change your mind forever. At 3:17 a.m., the lights in cell block D flickered, a rare thing in a place where time itself seems to have stopped. The cameras caught only a flash of motion before the screen went static. When the feed returned, seconds later, one of the most dangerous men in America, Ethan Rowe, former cartel enforcer and convicted murderer, was lying face down on the cold concrete floor, motionless. ADX Florence, the Alcatraz of the Rockies, the most secure prison in the United States, a place where inmates don't touch sunlight, don't speak to anyone, and sometimes don't make it out alive. Ethan Rowe had been serving multiple life sentences. Officially, it was for murder and racketeering. Unofficially, it was for what he knew about government deals, dirty agents, and a smuggling network that reached beyond the prison walls. The guards called him the accountant because he kept mental records of every transaction that had ever passed through his hands, including names that shouldn't exist. That night, something went wrong. The guards claimed it was a heart attack, but the footage didn't add up. No medical staff arrived for 47 minutes. The internal report was sealed before sunrise, and by dawn, his cell had been scrubbed clean. Every trace of him erased, except for one thing, a small scrap of paper taped beneath his bed frame. 3 words, written in blood. They are watching. When federal investigator Lena Hart arrived 3 days later, she'd already read the official report twice. She knew it was a lie. She'd seen too many like it, quiet deaths buried under bureaucratic silence. But this one felt different. Something about the timing, the missing footage, the fact that 2 guards on duty that night had already requested transfers and one had vanished completely. Hart walked the sterile hallways of the Supermax, her every step echoing off concrete walls. She could feel the tension in the air, the kind of fear that doesn't come from inmates, but from the people running the place. The warden, a man named Cole Branner, met him in the control room. His eyes were cold, his smile rehearsed. "Agent Hart, we run a tight ship here. Sometimes things happen, but rest assured, no one escapes this place, not even death." She studied him, the way his hand trembled slightly when she mentioned the missing guard, the way he avoided looking at the camera feed. Before leaving, she slipped into Ethan Rowe's old cell. The walls smelled of bleach, but underneath, faint scratches carved into the concrete read like a diary. Room 46C, ask the janitor. Her pulse quickened. There was no room 46C on the facility's blueprints. When she confronted the warden, he smiled again, too calmly this time. There are parts of this prison that don't exist on paper for a reason. That night, she found herself replaying the static-filled footage, frame by frame, until one image froze her blood. For a split second, before the screen went black, someone else appeared behind Ethan Rowe's cell door. A man in a corrections uniform with no face visible, no name tag, and a key card that didn't match anyone on staff. Hart leaned back in her chair, heart pounding, because now it wasn't just about one inmate's death. It was about what they were hiding beneath the surface of the most secure prison in America. And as she would soon discover, Ethan Rowe might not have been the only one trying to get out. Lena Hart hadn't slept in 36 hours. Her hotel room window overlooked the jagged Colorado mountains, but all she could see in her mind were those words, Room 46C, ask the janitor. By dawn, she was back at the facility, flashing her credentials at the gate. The guards looked uneasy, their eyes darting toward the security tower as if someone was watching them too closely. Inside, the air was heavy with disinfectant and silence. Every hallway looked identical, sterile, endless, cold. But Hart had a knack for noticing what others missed. A faint draft along the south wall, the pattern of scuff marks that didn't match the layout. Someone had been moving something large, regularly. She found the janitor during lunch hour, Ralph Donnelly, a gray-haired man with hands that trembled as he pushed his cart. When she asked him about room 46C, he froze. His eyes darted toward the nearest camera, then back to her.
"I don't know what you're talking about," he whispered. "There's no 46C here. You shouldn't ask questions like that." Hart leaned closer. "Ethan Rowe told me to." Ralph's face went pale. He dropped his mop. "Then you need to leave, before they put you in there too." Before she could press further, 2 guards appeared at the end of the hallway, moving too deliberately to be casual. Ralph backed away, muttering under his breath, "You didn't hear it from me." That night, Hart stayed behind after hours. She had memorized the shift rotation. Between 1 and 1:20 a.m., Cell Block D's lower corridor went completely unwatched for 19 minutes due to blind spots between overlapping cameras, a flaw no one was supposed to know about. She used it. With a flashlight in one hand and her recorder running, she descended into the service tunnels beneath the main complex, narrow, echoing passages lined with rusted pipes and humming cables. The air was damp and metallic, and the silence was suffocating. Then she saw it. A steel door set into the far wall. No number plate, no security camera above it. Just a keypad with a single red light. The metal around it was cleaner than the rest, recently touched. She tried her master clearance ARD, denied. Again, denied. Then she remembered the janitor, the way his keyring had a tag marked Laundry East. The tunnels ran beneath that section. The door's position matched perfectly with the blank square on the floor plans, a place that technically didn't exist. She pried the lock open. The door creaked. The room beyond was dimly lit, walls lined with soundproof padding, a metal chair bolted to the floor, chains on the walls, and cameras, dozens of them, wired to a small humming terminal in the corner. On the desk lay a series of USB drives labeled only by inmate numbers, and one file marked Rowe Confession.mp4. She plugged it into her recorder. The screen flickered to life. Ethan Rowe appeared, sitting in that same metal chair. His face was bruised. His eyes looked hollow. "They think they can keep this place hidden," he said, voice trembling. "But I've seen what they do down here. Experiments, interrogations. People vanish and they call it suicide." He looked straight into the camera. "If you're watching this, Agent Hart, you're next." The screen cut to static. Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Slow, deliberate. Someone else was down there. She turned off the light, heart hammering, crouched behind the desk as the door handle twisted, metal scraping against metal. A voice she recognized whispered from the darkness, "I warned you, Agent Hart." It was Warden Cole Branner, and in his hand, he held her badge. The room was silent except for the low hum of the fluorescent light above. Warden Cole Branner stood in the doorway, his shadow stretching across the floor like a blade. In his hand, Agent Lena Hart's FBI badge glimmered under the dim light. "You shouldn't be here," he said, voice calm, too calm. Hart's pulse thundered. "You're tampering with federal evidence, Branner. Whatever you've been doing here, it ends tonight." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You think you're the first one to find this room? They all thought they could expose it. They all ended up like Rowe." She didn't move. Her recorder was still running. Her hand, hidden behind the desk, hovered near the USB labeled Rowe Confession.mp4. Branner's tone shifted. "You have no idea what this place really is. ADX Florence isn't a prison. It's a vault for secrets the government can't risk seeing daylight. Every inmate here isn't just dangerous, they're liabilities. Assassins,
defectors, spies, men who knew too much. He took another step forward. And when those men start talking, we make sure their voices are never heard again. Hart's mind raced. She remembered the sealed reports, the missing guards, the janitor's warning. Everything fit. The prison wasn't failing to protect the public. It was protecting something else entirely. But Branner wasn't finished.
Rowe was different, he continued. He wasn't supposed to remember. We wiped his records, buried his name. But he kept talking, and when we tried to silence him, he left your name carved in his cell. He wanted you to find this. He wanted to destroy everything. Hart took a step back. You killed him! Branner's jaw tightened. No, I signed the order. Someone else pulled the trigger. Behind him, movement, the faint clatter of boots echoing in the corridor. 2 guards appeared, faces expressionless, weapons drawn. Hart knew she had seconds. She yanked the USB from the terminal and slipped it into her jacket, just as Branner lunged for her arm. The light shattered in the struggle, plunging the room into flickering darkness. Gunshots cracked, sparks danced across the metal walls. Hart dove behind the chair, rolling toward the tunnel exit. She sprinted through the narrow passage as alarms blared across the prison. Lockdown! All sectors! Agent Hart is armed! Her lungs burned. Sirens wailed above. She could hear boots chasing her, radios buzzing with orders. Somehow, she reached the loading bay, the only exit that wasn't sealed yet. She slammed the emergency override and stumbled into the cold Colorado night. By morning, she was gone, vanished into the mountains. 3 days later, a video appeared online, posted from an untraceable account. It was grainy, shaky, but clear enough to recognize the voice. Ethan Rowe. The full confession, the experiments, the cover-ups, the disappearances, every name, every date, every hidden operation tied to the Supermax. The footage spread like wildfire before federal agencies forced it offline, but not before thousands downloaded it. And then, just as quickly as she appeared, Lena Hart disappeared too. The FBI issued a statement calling her a rogue agent compromised by misinformation. ADX Florence denied everything. The warden was reassigned, the janitor retired, and room 46C, according to official blueprints, never existed. But 1 year later, during renovations, a contractor uncovered a welded steel door deep beneath the facility. No handle, no markings. Just a faint engraving burned into the metal. 3 words. They are watching. The workers who found it were told to seal it up again. They did, but not before one of them snapped a single photo and sent it anonymously to a journalist's inbox. That journalist's name? Lena Hart. And to this day, no one knows where she is. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Subscribe, because the truth they hide inside America's prisons is just the beginning.